dealing with the king. If you wanna come and get it, let the outlaw get you out your seats. You want sports talk, politics, he don't give a shit. Rocha says speaks, follow it. About to issue y'all a masterclass. You wanna pass? Gunslinging the new podcast, see candy ass. Grab a toss bench, get information. It's your boy John Rocha. Welcome to the Outlaw Nation.
All right, welcome everybody to this week's episode of the Outlaw Nation. I am coming to you live from my friend Shannon McClung's place. He is playing Injustice 2 right now as we speak. He's a massive fan of this video game. We were just at Timmy Nolan's over there in Toluca Lake, and we were at a trivia contest. And you know me, you know the Outlaw, all the belts, all the records. We just randomly, we always go to Timmy Nolan's, but we discovered randomly a few weeks ago that they have a movie trivia, or they have a trivia night. And a lot of it is like based on world knowledge. But they also have a lot of famous people trivia and celebrities trivia, movie trivia, all that kind of stuff. So it's fun to do that, and we discovered it. Shannon and I discovered it randomly, and then we just started going every Wednesday. And our friend Ian comes and joins us every once in a while because Ian is a massive guy with knowledge of, not massive like big, but he's got a massive knowledge of. He's got a big brain, yeah. Basically, he's got a big brain about all this kind of stuff, all this touchy-feely stuff, and and also about the world. So there's all of that there too. But anyway, I was going to drive home, but I'm like, no, fuck it. I'm just going to sit here and do the show in Shannon's place, but unfortunately I forgot a second mic. So we'll be handing the mic off to each other back and forth and see how this works. But I wanted to ask Shannon to come on. Oh, by the way, hi, I'm John Rocha, a.k.a. The Outlaw. This is my podcast, Outlaw Nation. Welcome. You guys have been so amazing with your tweets and your words of support, and you're sending me your messages. Like, so many are asking me, like, "Hey, I've got a problem at work with bosses that are pushy or people that are pushy, and I've got stuff going on with my mom's cancer. I've got stuff." Listen, I'm telling you, I read every one of y'all's stuff, and I send words out into the universe for you all, and send positive thoughts out to you all. So I really appreciate everything you sent to me. Keep sending me your stories if you feel like it. Some of you are like, I didn't know if I should. I didn't want to write a whole novel. I don't care. I have time. I have time to read your stories. I have time in the mornings to listen to what you all are doing and talk about things that are going on in y'all's life. And so I don't mind listening to them because it's good to connect with you all. I mean, well, it would be cocky as shit of me to have a show about the Outlaw Nation, talk about my personal struggles and how I've overcome them, and not want to hear the journey you guys are on, because one of the great things for me that really helped me when I was on my journey was people who were willing to sit and talk with me and kind of go through stuff with me. So it meant a lot. So anyway, so thank you.
People like me.
Yeah.
People like me.
Yeah, exactly. People like you, Shannon. Yeah, exactly. Dude, there's no one who's listened to my life more over the last 20 years than Shannon McClung. Would you say that's true? I mean, Vogel comes close, but you're pretty up there.
I would say it is probably a two-way tie between me and Mike Vogel. I think he hears more about you at night. I hear more about you in the morning when we go to our favorite breakfast place.
That's right, Patty's. That's right, Patty's in Toluca Lake on Riverside. That's right. Well, anyway, for those of you who don't know or you don't remember, Shannon was on the show 2 or 3 weeks ago. We went down to Comic-Con. He's a fantastic actor. He's been a really great friend of mine through the years. We've gone through some ups and downs in terms of our personal lives outside of our relationship, and then in our relationship, we've found like a solace in a really deep friendship. We can talk about our stuff, and Lord God, he lets me go on and on about shit, which I can't even tell you how much I've appreciated over the years. I talk less now, you'll be surprised, but I do have stuff that happens, so it's the way it is. But Shannon is a great actor. You've seen him on numerous things like Silicon Valley. What's the most recent one? Friends in College?
Friends from College on Netflix right now.
Is that episode out?
Yeah. The whole season is on Netflix. I'm in episode 6, and unfortunately, a healthy chunk of my performance hit the cutting room floor. But I think if you watch the episode, you can say you can see like, hey, something's missing here. Like you can tell that there's missing time.
Oh, right. So
with my character,
right. So you're saying you were funnier. Like you're saying they took out the building blocks to what you were doing.
They took out some very funny stuff that ultimately did not affect the larger story, which is what happens when you're an actor kind of at my level, where you're doing guest star, one-day guest star, co-star stuff. You are there in service of the story. And if you have this great moment that does not affect the overall story and the episode is running long, your great moment could be cut.
Wow.
Yeah. That has happened. It hasn't happened a ton, but it has happened. Actually, do you remember when I booked Heart of Dixie?
Of course.
So John and I were at Comic-Con. This was 3 or 4 years ago, and we had a pretty big first night. And so the next day, John went to go get in the Hall H line as I was recovering. And I big night, so I was a little hurting. Sure. And I got a message from my agent that I had an audition for Heart of Dixie like 3 weeks before, and he said, "Hey, it turns out they're coming back to you. We need to know, are you available for this day?" Yes, of course. And like the best antidote to get you out of a hangover is get good booking news like that. So I went and got Subway, gave it to John in line, and then went and shot the show the next week. Had a very nice scene with Rachel Bilson, and then months later, as it was premiering, it was the season premiere of season 3, I think, and I was IMing with my dad. I think I've told you this.
No.
I was IMing with my father, and my parents live on the East Coast, so they're 3 hours ahead. And I was in the opening scene, and Dad is asking me, he's like, "Hey, so he's like, we saw you. Do you talk?" And I got all cocky, and I was like, "Yes, Dad. Of course I spoke. I wouldn't have told all these people on social media to watch me if I didn't speak." And then a few more minutes went by. I'm like, "Oh, okay, this is probably a bad sign." So I asked my dad. I'm like, "Hey, are they still in the hospital?" And he's like, "No, she's on a bus going to someplace." It's like, "Yeah, I got cut." That was the first dramatic cut that I'd have.
Yeah, those are the hardest to deal with. Like you guys booked, you and there's a couple of other friends of ours who book a lot of theatrical stuff. I haven't booked a lot of theatrical stuff at all. So to me, I don't know the perils of being cut, right? So when I see that happen with you guys, I'm always like, oh, that's a kick in the, because you get paid and you'll get your residuals, but like you like to see yourself on screen. There's like a certain amount of credit with that. And of course, directors have to cut of what works and for time and whatever. So, and there's numerous reasons why things get cut, right? Like you did that, what was that CBS show you did, that procedural, the medical one, that where you play the zombie?
Oh, Code Black.
Right, where you cut, some of that was cut, wasn't it?
A little bit was cut, but not as dramatic as like Heart of Dixie or I recurred on The Mentalists for a few episodes, and there was one episode that I was just completely cut out. You see me walking in the background, which is the worst thing when people see you be like, "Hey, I saw you." I was like, "Oh, you don't understand. There was so much more. I did some really good work that day."
I'm not an extra. I swear. I swear to God, there's anything wrong with extras, but I'm not an extra. I spoke. Yeah, and that's the tough thing. That's part of this business. Sometimes you have to take the hits because you have to. The credits still go on the resume, so that's a good thing. But there's nothing there for your reel, which really sucks.
Yeah, that is particularly painful. That was kind of with friends from college. There was a great scene, great funny part. That I'm like, man, this would be a great finale to my comedy reel, and it didn't make it end. So it's like, okay, well, we got to move on.
Yeah. Do you ever get the footage?
No.
Yeah, that's not, unless you know the editor, it's really, really hard.
Yeah, unless you know someone who works in the production, that probably. But things get cut in different stages of the process all the time. Like you could have something that never makes it. You may have shot it. It never makes it into like a rough edit. They know right off the bat, like, "Oh, we don't need this."
Wow.
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily mean. I like to hope that it doesn't mean that it was a bad performance, But yeah, a lot of time a lot of it just comes down to time. Something with Silicon Valley, which I'm friendly with the casting people. Silicon Valley, they shoot quite a bit of material. Like they have to cut quite a bit because the guys on the show, they are improv geniuses, and they let them kind of go off on a tangent, and the story is about them. So you should see them being funny. And something that the casting folks told me was like, we were honestly surprised how much of your stuff, which it wasn't just me, it was me and 3 other people, we were surprised how much of your stuff actually made it in, which is a great compliment.
That is a great compliment.
It's the polar opposite of your stuff hitting the cutting room floor.
Yeah, you've been doing this how long now? How long have you been an actor now?
Well, out here.
Yeah, out here.
12 years?
It only counts out here.
Okay. I have been out here 12 years. I booked my first job in 2007, so roughly 10 years now.
Right, and to survive, you work at Universal Studios as well. Like you're the one that, Like, I've asked you many times over the years about working at Universal Studios, and then I finally got to work at Universal Studios. But you've been doing it since Florida, since like Orlando, since before college, right?
Yeah, it was my freshman year of college. I got cast as John Connor in the Terminator 2 3D show in Orlando, Florida. And originally, I was still in high school. I was a senior, and they called me back. And then I think on the audition in the newspaper, when people still got newspapers, in the ad, it said that you had to be 18 by, say, like May. And I turned 18 in April, and the audition was probably like January, February. And so during the callback, they said, hey, so we're going to bump up the opening date. When do you turn 18? I'm like, I turn 18 in April. Like, we're not going to be able to use you. Because I wasn't a legal adult and there were stunts involved. And so I didn't get to be in the opening cast, but I got to be in the second cast. But yeah, I mean, Universal has been an incredible blessing to me. You're getting to perform, you're getting to work on your craft. Are you in front of the camera? No, but you are like a big camera, you're in front of a bunch of little cameras. And your job as a performer in a theme park is to make every moment special for the guests.
Very well said, Shannon. Very well said. I know, and I had to experience that myself. Theme park life, theme park acting is, and people sometimes kind of make jokes about it, but theme park acting is incredibly difficult because you are doing 35 hours a week, 40 hours, depending on how what your roster is like and what your job is like, where you're at on the roster as well. You could do anywhere from 10 to 40 hours a week on a show, repeating the same words, playing with different guests, and guests that are hot and sweaty and tired and irritated. Their kids have been on them all day. That's why I like to work early in the morning, because they're still happy and alive and fresh. You get the best reactions from people in Harry Potter when I do the work that I do at Harry Potter, because in the morning, because they're just so much more excited to see you, so much more excited to buy into the land. By 1 o'clock, that's when you get the angry parents. By 3 o'clock is when you get the Modelo 40s sneaking in from the cart, and you could smell them in the room while you're trying to do your wand shop with the kids, and it's a rough go. Have you ever experienced that have you ever had a drunken guest like mess around with you that you can never, like, you can't say the name of the guest or the situation, but can you talk about it?
Oh, yeah. Well, with Terminator specifically, which, they don't have... I did the Terminator show in Orlando, in Japan, and then here. And we closed it here probably like four or 5 years ago. But the story of the show is John and Sarah Connor rappel into this Cyberdyne Systems presentation, and we're kind of running through the theater. Well, when you're running in front of the stage, you're not that far away from the front row. And it wasn't relegated to just drunk guys. It was also, just assholes that would like to stick their foot out and try to trip you.
What?
Oh yeah, that happened a lot. Now I was second. Like, it was John and Sarah Connor running, and the Sarah actress is wearing sunglasses. Like, that's something that they do to sort of obscure her face to make it look like she's Linda Hamilton. She's also carrying a automatic weapon, and and the lights are low. So she can't always see people sticking their feet out thinking they're being funny. And there was one moment where the actress playing Sarah, who was running in front of me, and it was a long day and I was tired and I was grumpy, but these kids, teenagers, tripped her. And I helped her back up, and we went into this little, stairway vestibule, waiting for the next moment of the show. And they were laughing, and they were high-fiving, and I got very, very angry. And I won't say what I did next because I still work for the company. They stopped laughing, though.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Yeah. Sometimes you can get away with those moments with guests at certain times. I had that with The Walking Dead. When I did Halloween Horror Nights last year, they created a new role where you had a survivor, a savior rather, be outside talking to the guests as they were walking through the hospital turnstiles.
These are the Negan guys,
right? Yeah, the Negan guys. Okay. Yeah. So we were there, and you're right. People show up, and they warned me. You warned me. Mm-hmm. You said people show up and they want to pick fights. They're drunk. It's late at night. It's the young kids, the teenagers, whatever. But they gave us free reign. Thank God. And they said you can do anything you want. You can insult the guests. You can fuck with the guests. Just don't physically assault the guests or cross over the steel barrier to confront the guests. Right. So I had a kid Oh my God. I had a kid who was like 17, 16 or something like that. So he was feeling his oats with his crew and his girls and everything like that. You know, he was, I don't want to say what heritage he was. He was my people, goddamn it. But he was like, he was doing his thing, right? And I get it. We're a macho people. I get it, Latinos. So I was letting, because he would talk over me. And he would be loud about it, and he would do this. So when he and the way that Walking Dead works is that you come into this hospital, and there's like you're standing in line at the DMV. There's like all these steel poles, and you're just walking in a zigzag around, or what do you call serpentine fashion through the thing. And so you get closer and closer to me, and I'm on a podium with a mic. And so this kid was, and then he said something like really derogatory at me. So he is like literally right in front of me with this podium. My legs are long enough that I could put my stretch my foot out and put it on the steel on the top steel bar, right, and lean in with my elbow on my knee. and I went up to that kid and I was like, "You don't understand what I'm saying to you, do you, son? You don't understand." And I just jumped down and got right up in his, because he was like, "I don't need to," and boom, and I jumped down right in his face. I was like, "Huh? What you gonna do? You gonna do anything?" Yeah, I didn't think so. And he just kind of shut up, and I was like, that was satisfying, because we get those moments where we push back, because some people take advantage of the situation. Some people like think that you're some kind of piece of trash that they can mess around with there at the park. You're like, I'm getting paid to entertain you, fuckface. Like, you paid to come in here. Why are you acting like this?
Much like how I'm sure you have on Twitter, sometimes people like to poke the bear a little bit. They're poking you for a reaction, and sometimes when they get it, they don't know what to do, because they don't look at you as a person. They look at you. You're a fixture of the show. You're just a part. You're a cog in the show machine. So when you actually make eye contact with them and call them out on what they've done, a lot of times it's the deer in the headlights. Like, they do not know what to do. The kids who tripped the Sarah Connor, when I addressed them, his prompt response when I finished saying what I had said was, "Yes, sir." Yeah. Now, at the time, I was probably 22 years old, and like, I'm not a big guy. I'm 5'6". I probably weighed 40 less pounds, so I'm not an intimidating figure. But just the fact that I got up and addressed him, like, he didn't know what to do.
Rage is intimidating. No matter what size you're at, pure unadulterated rage is intimidating. It really is. It really is. I've learned that over the years myself. In certain moments, it can help. It can get you out of certain moments. But one of the other reasons I wanted, we didn't want to just go on and on about being at Universal. I also brought Shannon on because Shannon is a massive geek, just like I am, and he knows a lot about a lot of these things, and so we've had great conversations. You guys, if you listen to the Comic-Con episode, we all, like, my crew knows a lot about this shit, and we get into in-depth, like, hard-ass conversations about stuff, and we love doing it. It's one of the fun things we do. So I wanted Shannon to come on and talk about a few things, and the first thing I wanted to talk about was the Star Wars stuff that dropped on Entertainment Weekly. Those covers were pretty awesome. What did you think? What did you think with Rey and Luke and all that? What did you think?
Oh, I thought it was fantastic, and the Luke's especially, because when we saw him at the end of Force Awakens, he's in sort of this white, pristine robe, and the cover is not white. I mean, he's in a darker robe, and you get the sense that it is going to be a darker story. And when you really think about why he went out there, like, he didn't go out there to take a rest. I mean, he felt that he had failed. He's trying to remove himself from the situation. So as they talk about that the second film is going to go into this darker story, it makes total sense that, like, he's not in a good place when Rey finds him. I'm very, very much looking forward to the movie. And Rian Johnson is such an interesting choice for director. Like, a lot of people in the geek community, but overall are really trumpeting him being hired. And I was like, that's interesting, because he's not a 4-quadrant filmmaker. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think probably the most 4-quadrant film he did was Looper with Bruce Willis and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and even it's got some weird moments. Like, he also did was The Brothers Bloom, which I enjoyed, but I could tell, like, it's a small bullseye he's going for. And also Brick. I mean, Brick is a weird movie. It's enjoyable, and if you're able to get on the train that he's engineering, you will love it. But he's not always the most accessible filmmaker. And when you hear people saying, like, his script, this film, it's not what you're expecting. It'll be really interesting to see what the movie is, and also what the public's reception to the movie is going to be.
Yeah, and Hamill talks about how it's a darker film. Mm-hmm. And when I interviewed Daisy Ridley, she said, and he doesn't know who she is, and Hamill's response in the interview was, oh, he doesn't? Or does he? And I was like, what? What? And I'm sure he did it on purpose to kind of get all the Star Wars fans going insane about it, as a clue. Because everyone, because all of us consider the fact that Luke might be her father and left her there or whatever. It's certainly possible. But it's the EW, when you read the EW article that's online, because I haven't bought the magazine yet, but most of it is online. They talk about, sorry.
He's tired from our first place victory in trivia.
All the belts, all the records. We finally won. But no, he talks about how it's a darker approach to his approach to Luke. And this is what's so interesting, his interview, because he said, it's not that farm boy anymore. That he's looking out. You remember the two sons, and I recently rewatched the whole original trilogy all over again in the HD and just watching it all over again. It was fascinating to remember how young Luke Skywalker, how Mark Hamill was playing Luke Skywalker, and the progression of Luke Skywalker through the 3 films, from this this bright-eyed, bushy-tailed kid out of Tatooine to the powerful warrior that shows up all in black at Jabba's palace. It's just amazing to see the transition, and also the fight he has obviously at the end, and then saving his father in essence, all of that, and then you see what this is, right? And Luke says in the interview, or Hamill says in the interview, that he had to have extensive conversations with Ryan about what happened from Return of the Jedi to now.
Right.
And that's so intense and interesting, because then that they're putting the incredible amount of effort in fleshing out these characters. Especially with Hamill, who is an accomplished actor in numerous media. It's just great to see that he's going to bring this to Luke, and I'm even more excited to see this because obviously Daisy is coming, or Rey is coming to bring Luke back into the fight. But it seems like Luke is going to get is going to have to confront this situation with her at some point. And how much is Leia going to be involved? How much is it's just so much. Anyway, what do you think about this? The dark, are you excited about the dark return with Luke, or does it kind of make you feel like they're betraying the character? What is your feeling?
I mean, I don't feel like it's betraying the character, because again, we don't know. I mean, I haven't read all the canon novels that came out that talk about what happened in between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. I'm excited to see where it goes, because by the end, Luke, if you look, Luke in A New Hope, Luke versus in Return of the Jedi, I mean, he has fundamentally changed. I mean, he's become a man, but he's also discovered who he is and where he came from. In New Hope, he didn't know that he was the son of this, galactic dictator. To find out so much about your past, and how much it informs who you are later as a man. And then, yeah, I mean, again, he removed himself from the situation for a reason. Yeah. It wasn't because he was bored. It's he lost his nephew. Not only his nephew, but all these other students that he had taken under his wing, he failed them. Or at least that's what he feels. I failed these people.
Yeah, and what's interesting is in the article, he also says, he had sunk all his hopes into his nephew being the chosen one. So this idea repeats itself. This idea of the chosen one, right? This is what Anakin says to. I mean, what Obi-Wan says to Anakin. You were supposed to be the chosen. You were the chosen. You were supposed to bring balance to the universe, right? And it's been this whole thing. It's almost parallel to Game of Thrones. This idea of Melisandre trying to find who's the one in the prophecy here. I keep fucking this up. It's one. Is it Stannis? Is it Jon Snow? It's I don't know who it is. So you see this happening in Star Wars as well, because it seems like Luke was grooming Kylo to be stepping into his shoes and taking over the mantle from him and all that
role. Yeah, the
right.
Next generation. The next generation. Yeah,
right. Exactly. So what does that mean now that he's betrayed him? Because it almost feels like a repeat of the Anakin Obi-Wan situation.
Right. And
it's ironic because Obi-Wan's the one that protected Luke, and found Luke because of what happened with Anakin. So what is the next step here for Luke and Kylo, and what's it going to be when he sees? Everyone's thinking it's going to be Daisy versus Kylo. I think Kylo's going to kill Luke. That's my opinion. Things have to be circular, and I think if Luke is this far gone in his thought processes as a character, that he wants the time of the Jedi to end. All of that, it feels like you got to kill Luke.
I would be really, really sad if that happened. I mean, from a storytelling perspective, and again, we don't know what happens in The Last Jedi, but from a story perspective, it does kind of make sense to these older characters expire, and the passing of the baton goes to the younger characters. That being said, I grew up with Luke Skywalker and the idea. I mean, Han Solo, we all kind of knew, the fans kind of knew, he's probably going to die, just because Harrison Ford had been very vocal about the fact that he didn't want to go back to Han Solo. He didn't find the character interesting. You never got that sense from Mark Hamill. Like, Mark Hamill had always really embraced the fans, showing up at Star Wars Celebrations or whatever the convention was before Star Wars Celebrations became a thing. The idea that we could lose him is it's so sad.
And I wonder how the Leia death affects that. I wonder. Carrie Fisher's passing affects that. I wonder how that's going to, because maybe they did write it so that Carrie Fisher takes the mantle and Luke dies. Like, she's the survivor of the three, which makes complete sense that it would be her surviving, even though it was in essence Luke's story in the original trilogy. It would certainly make sense to have Leia be the survivor. She was always the strongest of the two. She was always determined. She was always willing to confront any situation. She survived confronting Vader face to face. She survived confronting Jabba face to face. Like, she always finds her way out. She's always strong enough to survive whatever situation they put her in. So she could survive the death of Solo. She could survive the death of her brother. I think if anybody could do it. So to have Carrie Fisher pass, I wonder how much they're rewriting 9 so that Luke doesn't die, maybe. Because I thought for sure in my mind, and I haven't said this on any of those shows because it's just been in my mind, that it makes sense to repeat the patterns of what we'd seen before. Because I don't care what they say, they're doing that. Like Ryan said this about Last Jedi. He said, like, well, people brought up the similarities to him in Empire Strikes Back, and he said, well, I'm not purposely doing that. It was unconscious. And I'm like, do they? Because Boyega and that, I forget the Tico Rose, I forget the actress's, the character's name, but they're going to a city, a casino city, right? Which is, it's in essence Cloud City. So I'm like, there's the beats, once again, just like with Force Awakens, they feel a little familiar to Empire Strikes Back. I don't care. I'm still probably going to love the film. It doesn't matter to me. It's not enough to take away from the film, but you sense that this is something that they're hitting these beats. So if Qui-Gon Jinn dies, Obi-Wan dies, Luke has to die. It just makes sense.
Oh, that makes me so sad. And the thing, and this kind of falls into Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy too, like we'll never know what that third chapter was supposed to be because of Heath Ledger passing. Like we will never know what episode 9 was going to be just because Carrie Fisher was ideally, at least what Lucasfilm has said, like she was going to be a very large part of that film. And it's going to go down in history as, damn it. What if? Yeah, you know what I mean.
What do you think's going to happen? Do you think Trevorrow's going to stay on? Do you think he'll do 9 after what happened with his last film, like bombing at the box office? What is your feeling? Do you think they replace him?
I thought he was an interesting choice because did you see Safety Not Guaranteed, his indie movie?
No.
It had it's Aubrey Plaza and I think it's Mark Duplass and Jake Johnson from New Girl, and it's a nice little movie. I thought it was crazy that they then hired him for Jurassic World, just because that's such a big leap, not just in status but just in production. I mean, that's night and day. And I saw Jurassic World. It was fine. I didn't love it. Of all the Jurassic World movies, I only liked the first one. I didn't like Lost World, and I didn't like Jurassic Park 3. Jurassic World, it checked off all the boxes. So the fact that he was then signed on to do Episode 9, I was like, because J.J. Abrams, I thought that's a great choice. Mm-hmm. Rian Johnson, man, that's a really interesting choice. And him, I was like, that it was kind of the same with Josh Trank, which, I mean, he's not doing the spinoff movie anymore. I was like, really? The guy? Okay. I was like, I thought Chronicle was interesting, but I didn't think that necessarily elevated him to the status of doing a Star Wars film.
Yeah, I think this is the moment where Patty Jenkins could step in. Like, this is something I've been thinking about recently. Like, it's not too late. It's not too late to bring Patty in. And why not? She'd be the first female director of a Star Wars film. That's right? Why wouldn't she come in and step in Episode 9? Who else to shepherd us through this whole situation with Princess Leia passing? Like, it should be to have her on set, Patty figuring things out, how to bring it back to the joy of Star Wars with all the darkness that's going to happen in the second one. I think she'd be a great choice, like what she did with Wonder Woman.
I think that's a really interesting choice. And another choice that they had talked about, I think before J.J. Abrams had been announced, was like Matthew Vaughn. Like Matthew Vaughn directing a Star Wars movie. Like that's a really interesting choice. And just because he doesn't direct Episode 9 doesn't mean he can't direct a spinoff or whatever. Brad Bird had been talked about at one point. That talk kind of went away after Tomorrowland came out and was not, did not do what they were hoping it would do. No, I think Patty Jenkins would be a very, very cool option. And again, if it's not Episode 9, for a spinoff down the line.
Yeah, that maybe a Leia prequel. That'd be great too. But I think she'd be great doing episode 9. I also think Matthew Vaughn would have been a great choice for the Han Solo movie. Just because you've got that kind of character that, he has directed those kind of characters that are kind of criminals and also good guys and also interesting to watch, and he's produced those films for Guy Ritchie at the beginning. So and he did Layer Cake, so he has experience creating these characters that have kind of a rougher edges to them, but still making them charming and interesting and fascinating to watch. And so I think he'd have been a great choice. I mean, I thought, I don't know. We've talked about the Lord Miller stuff. Like, do you want to say anything about that? I feel like, what's the point now, right? I mean, Ron's doing it. It's going to be what it's going to be. Do you have any expectations that it'll be a good film?
I don't think it'll be a bad film.
That's a ringing endorsement.
I mean, I think Ron Howard came in, you kind of know exactly what you're going to get with him. Lord Miller's Han Solo, I would have been fascinated to watch that movie because I think those guys do have it in them to deliver a heartfelt film. If the story that was released about it was a simple miscommunication, they thought they were making a comedy, Lucasfilm thought they were making a Star Wars film with some jokes in it. If that is in fact true, I mean, I can't imagine that it's true, but still, I think those guys could have, if they'd been on the same page from the beginning, I think those guys could have made that movie. And something that they talked about in one of the articles was how they would yell out alternate lines from behind the monitors, and how like Lawrence Kasdan kind of had an issue with that because he's the screenwriter, and this is Star Wars alumni basically yelling out alternate lines from behind a monitor, because most of the stuff that I've done is comedy. That's very common. Granted, it's television. Like, it's not Star Wars. It's not a multi-billion-dollar franchise. But that was not that was not sacrilege to me. I was like, that happens a lot. But I guess when you're dealing with sort of, a very, pedigreed screenwriter, maybe you can't do that. I don't know. I still think those guys could have turned in a great movie. It doesn't matter now. Yeah. Ron Howard's directing it.
Yeah, it's good. The whole thing, it's interesting. How the Han Solo movie turns out and how Justice League turns out is going to be interesting. Because everybody's stepping in and do. It's just it does not happen often in this city, and so when it does, it's kind of a big deal. So I wonder how the end is going to be on that.
We'll find out next summer.
That's true. Well, we'll find out later on this year with Justice League, right? Isn't that this year?
Yeah, Justice League is November. Han Solo is supposed to come out next May.
Wow, we're gonna get Thor and Justice League in November.
Yeah,
that's gonna be a good month.
Have you talked about that? Did you talk about the Justice League trailer?
No. Well, I don't think I have. What do you want to talk about?
Well, no, I was just asking because we have no idea how much of Joss's stuff is in that last trailer. Like, we don't know. But the marked difference, at least in the response from the public, I mean, it's night and day. Like, I remember watching the second trailer, the one that starts off with Ben Affleck on the horse and everything, and people kind of groaning in the theater, and like, I don't know how it happens not in LA. Like, we live in a city where a lot of people, this is what they do for a living, so people are going to be much more vocal about how they feel. But the difference between the response to that and the response to the new one, and also the new one came out after Wonder Woman came out, and people love Gal Gadot right now.
Yeah, it's really interesting. To watch the Justice League trailer now, I'm like, wow. Like, where I was worried about it, seeing Gal and her scenes, I'm like, okay, we're gonna be fine. Like, it feels like it's so funny how one movie can turn you completely around about an actor and about a part that she's playing or he's playing. It just turns you around, and Wonder Woman really did that. Like, I have someone who comes after me on Twitter all the time. She's like, "Yeah, you changed your mind about her performance. You suck because you hated her in Batman vs Superman. So like, you can't be telling everybody that she's cool in Wonder Woman, as if you can't fucking see two different performances and decide that they were better in one performance than the other. Like, that's so stupid. I don't know. I'd hate to have a limited mind like that. And apparently, this guy has never changed his mind about a fucking thing ever. So it's just so ridiculous. Like, some of these fans sometimes drive me insane with this bullshit, because here's the deal. You guys know I love to interact with you guys and talk with you guys and have gone back and forth. But when you come at me with your bullshit, I don't want to fucking have it, because we're not going to have a constructive conversation. It's going to be you trying to feel yourself against my knowledge. And what's the point of that? Like, what are you getting out of that? So I just don't understand. Don't follow me. Fuck, man, I don't need you. don't follow me. Like, it's just how it works. I want to be able to interact with people who want to have constructive conversations and fun conversations, not people who are looking to just shit on me all over. Who the fuck wants that? So anyway, that guy. I'm sorry. I had to go a little tirade about that. But the Justice League trailer, Aquaman looks. I said this last night when I was on the Hyper RPG show. I said Aquaman steals every trailer he's in now with Justice League. So that the minute or 20 seconds we saw, I saw in Hall H, man, that was awesome. Mirror Master, Ocean Master's army and stuff. I was just it just makes me happy for what may happen with Aquaman. And I know Aquaman's like your favorite. Oh, let's talk about that. Shannon, why is Aquaman one of your favorite characters? This is for our group of friends. It's pretty well known that Shannon is a massive fan of the King of the Sea, Arthur, Aquaman. And are you happy with this version of Aquaman? This a surfer dude. So tell me, what's your feeling about Aquaman? Like, why do you love Aquaman so much? Like, what is it about him? And then what do you think about Momoa's thing?
I mean, I responded to Aquaman. I don't know. I always liked the underdogs. And on Super Friends, like whenever they would have those episodes where it was like the Legion of Doom versus the Super Friends, and it was sort of like you'd almost see like a college basketball like playoff bracket, like, so-and-so fought so-and-so, so-and-so fought so. Aquaman always lost. He always lost. It didn't matter who he fought. He always lost. But I always just responded to him. And I think part of it is, as kids especially, we sort of idolize people who can do things that we can't. And like, obviously none of us can fly. None of us are not most of us are billionaires who can afford an arsenal of technological weapons. I could never swim. Like, I'm not a good swimmer. And I love watching people swim. Like, I love watching the Olympics. I loved watching Michael Phelps. For whatever reason, I just did not. I'm not meant to be there. I'm not meant to be in the water. And I think it was partly that and the underdog factor. Like, I just always really, really enjoyed him. And then when there were rumors about Momoa playing Aquaman for like a year. And I always thought, man, that's a really interesting choice. Like, I don't care that he's not the blonde hair, blue-eyed white guy. I think it's cool that they were able to take someone who has like some Hawaiian
Samoan, yeah.
Is it Samoan?
Yeah.
Okay. Someone who has like some Pacific Islanders, people that are associated with the ocean. Yeah. I think that's really, really cool. And when that first picture came out, that whole Unite the Seven thing, which, I mean, it was at least maybe 9 months before Batman vs. Superman came out. When that still came out and people were kind of bagging on it, like, oh, he's like Rob Zombie. And I was like, no, I mean, this is what a guy, like a barbarian king almost. Like, that guy looks awesome. Like, I don't get surfer guy from that. I get more of like a King Arthur vibe. Just this guy who is all tatted up because it's all ancestral, all tribal. I think he looks awesome. I'm so excited to see what he does.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, he steals every scene he's in, so I enjoy it too. Are there some runs of Aquaman? Like, were you a fan of him in the comics? Like, did you read a lot of his stuff in the comics?
It was I talked about this with Audrey Kearns at Comic-Con, actually, because what got me into comics was right after Batman in 1989 came out. My sister bought me the first issue of the Lonely Place of Dying miniseries, which was Batman, and that was where they introduced Tim Drake as Robin. It was like Jason Todd had just been killed. And that was the first time I actually had a comic book, and I just fell in love with it. And then I looked up in the Yellow Pages comic book stores, and my mom took me to one of our local Orlando, Florida comic book stores, and I found it was the first issue of an Aquaman miniseries, because he didn't have a consistent book because he wasn't a popular character. But I don't remember the name of the miniseries. I want to say it was like called Time and Tide. But like reading it, I mean, it all took place underwater. It was all Atlantis, and like Mira kind of freaked out on him at one point. It was sort of him trying to find his identity. And I could, like, for most kids, it's not that interesting. Like, there wasn't a ton of action. It was like Atlantis had been taken over by this sort of alien presence that looked like sort of floating brains, basically. And it was all about him sort of setting the Atlantean people free who didn't want him as their king anymore. And when they ultimately won this battle, they all decided, no, we want you back. And he said, no. He's like, I'm not you and I'm not them. I'm Aquaman. So, yeah, I mean, it was great.
Well, speaking of casting choices with Momoa, what you've seen the Shazam news that he's going to come out. The rumors today were that they're going to make an announcement tomorrow or the next day.
Really?
Yeah, which is so interesting. So what do you think? Like, who is your thoughts on who you want to see as Shazam? Do you have thoughts on that?
The rumor that it was going to be Armie Hammer, and I don't know if that started with The Rock saying that, or not saying that he's going to be it, that he thinks he would be a great Captain Marvel or Shazam. I think Armie Hammer is a really good choice because you need someone, like you and I were talking about before, you need someone who has that sort of golly gee, aw shucks aspect. And I think Armie Hammer, outside of his portrayal as the Winklevoss twins, I mean, you look at him in The Lone Ranger, which, I mean, people don't like that movie for the most part. His performance was very, to me, very Shazam. Yeah. It was very innocent. It was very wide-eyed. And also, I think you need, kind of like what Tom Holland brought to Spider-Man, you need someone who it's going to be joy. Like, they're going to be joyful that they can do all these amazing things. I think Armie Hammer is an interesting choice. I think a lot of the guys who are already playing heroes in the DC universe would have been an interesting choice. And I think Momoa would have been an interesting choice. Yeah. Like Henry Cavill would have been an interesting choice. Way back when, I mean, I'm a huge Patrick Warburton fan. Like, if this would...
He'd have been a great Shazam.
I mean, 25 years ago, Patrick Warburton would have been a great Captain Marvel. I mean, he just has that sort of vacant, optimistic stare as David Putty on Seinfeld. Yeah, I mean, as of right now, Armie Hammer is the guy that comes to mind.
Yeah, I think it's a good choice. I like Armie Hammer. I've liked him in the stuff that he's done. I even like that man from Uncle. Yeah, the remake that Guy Ritchie did, or the film version that Guy Ritchie did. I think he's got what it takes. You just got to find the right material for him, and I think he certainly has a ability to do it. And I liked him. I thought of him for Hal Jordan. What would you have wanted to see him as Hal Jordan?
He does not seem Hal Jordan to me.
Okay, he doesn't seem cocky enough to play?
Not to me. And if the stories are true about Green Lantern Corps, that they're going to do it sort of like a buddy cop movie in space, I forget who I was talking to about this. It may have been Mike Kalinowski, who, as you know, big DC fan.
Noted DC fan, the killer Mike Kalinowski.
But Hal Jordan, getting sort of an older actor to play Hal Jordan and getting a younger Jon Stewart, like him kind of showing him the ropes, sort of the passing of the baton. The actor who the fans wanted to play Hal Jordan for years was Nathan Fillion. Yeah. And, he got a little too long in the tooth for that iteration, but now that could be interesting.
Wow. So you'd have Jon Stewart, the Black Green Lantern, being trained by Nathan Fillion as an older Hal Jordan. Yeah. Holy shit.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
I love that idea. Who do we talk to make that happen? That's a perfect... I would greenlight that in a minute. Then the question is, who plays young Jon Stewart?
What? I had a thought about this. One of the actors from Moonlight who played the older version, not Andre Holland, opposite Andre Holland, that actor who I believe is in the new Predator movie. I thought he seemed like a cool Jon Stewart idea to me.
Interesting. Okay. All right.
Or... do you watch This Is Us? Is it
Sterling K. Brown?
Yeah, I don't know if he's too old to do it. Like, ideally, I think you're Jon Stewart for this. If that's how they're going to go, that Jon Stewart shouldn't be over 30. Like, you need a younger guy.
Michael B. Jordan.
I mean, if he's willing to cross those party lines,
he's not doing Flash or fucking Human Torch anymore, is he?
No, but he is.
Oh, right. He's Killmonger.
I mean, if you could get Michael B. Jordan, I think that's an awesome idea.
Damn it.
I was going to say Donald Glover. Maybe not Donald Glover. He might be.
He's crossing the lines too.
He is. Well, is he?
He's going to be crossing. Isn't he Miles Morales' dad?
It's not his dad. It's his uncle.
Uncles.
It's his uncle, and then he had voiced Miles Morales in one of the animated series. But no, I don't think he's never gone to DC. But also, he's not Jon Stewart.
No,
Donald Glover's not Jon Stewart.
No. You need someone who's composed and strong. Not that Glover isn't, but it's a different energy. Jon Stewart's a different energy. It's very strong.
I think Donald Glover as Lando, that's an awesome choice. Yeah. But he does not ring military man to me. And I think for Jon Stewart, you want kind of a hard ass, someone who is maybe going to roll his eyes at Hal Jordan's weathered antics.
For lack of a better term. No, they just released some pictures of Josh Brolin as Cable. This is an interest. These were great pictures, I thought. That motherfucker's been hitting the gym. Yeah. Holy crapola. Yeah. I was like so surprised at how ripped he is. That's an old guy. Listen, Josh is in his 50s.
Is he 50?
He has to be, right?
He's 48.
Oh, stop it.
I get that we're
Am I close enough to him that in age that I'm only 2 years away from him?
Yeah, he's lived a hard
Yeah, he has, yeah. But he's also lived a better life. Being married to Diane Lane, I would have liked that life. That's a great life.
He's 49.
49. Oh, I'm sorry. I was off by a year.
He is on the precipice.
Crucify
of
me.
50.
I mean, seriously.
Yes,
You to get that
incredible shape.
yeah, to get that body to look like that.
Well, do you remember like J.K. Simmons? Like he training for Commissioner Gordon. Like we don't really know Commissioner Gordon as this kind of yoked guy, but I don't know. Like we've never been in the position where we're being paid to go to the gym. I'm curious how we would do. Yeah. 3 months in the gym on the payroll.
I would absolutely do it in a heartbeat. Bruce, do you even lift, bro? Commissioner Gordon, what's going on over there? Are you taking the roids? Where are the roids? Like, okay. Anyway, but I like the pictures. I thought he's a great looking Cable, and I'm just worried, man. I'm worried the original people aren't coming back. Morena Bassarin, is that? Yeah, she's not coming back, and there are rumors that she was difficult to deal with on set. Would you hear that all the time? You hear that bullshit all the time. So who knows? It's the studio saving face by saying the actor or actress was difficult. Yeah. So I'm just concerned because I didn't like that 4-minute vignette or whatever it was with this phone booth that they were doing when they announced Deadpool 2.
Yeah.
What did you think of that?
I mean, I'm not the biggest Deadpool fan. Like I enjoyed the movie.
Well,
no, I'm not saying it's a bad character. I mean, there are characters that click with us and characters that don't. I went and saw Spider-Man Homecoming again. And I was like, oh, I really enjoy this. I'm just not the biggest Spider-Man fan. Like, I loved Spider-Man in sort of that group format. I loved him in Civil War. I'm sure I'll love him in Avengers. But him by himself, it didn't have the rewatch value for me that it may have for others.
Did Wonder Woman?
Yes. Yeah. I saw Wonder Woman probably 3 or 4 times in the theater. And once I saw it with you guys, I saw it with my wife, and my wife is not a comic book fan at all, and she cried in the movie, which was
like at all.
No, that's not her bag. But watching her enjoy it as much as she did, I was like, oh, this is fantastic. And then I went and saw it 2 more times by myself, just because I was like, hey, I don't have anything to do today. Let me go see Wonder Woman.
It's eminently rewatchable, and it's a fantastic film. And I told, like, we were having this discussion last night on Hyper as well, on Cineverse for Hyper. Like Erica and Danny were defending the movie and saying this was the best superhero film of the year. And mine is Logan, not because I don't think Wonder Woman's fantastic. It's fantastic. I saw it 4 times. Right. Just Logan speaks to me in a different way because I'm an older man and looking back on my young self, which is in essence the theme of the film, right? And I've had these pangs about having a kid or having a daughter. Like, I've wanted that. It hasn't worked out for me yet, but I've certainly wanted that. So seeing
that you know of.
Yeah, right. If I ever become famous, it'll be those 10 knocks on the door. Hey, these are all your kids. What the fuck? But like, no, I mean, like, what? I didn't.
Nuevo papa.
¿Dónde está la casa? What casa? There's no casa. It's a bedroom apartment, 1-bedroom apartment. No, this is it. Move in if you want. Bring the sleeping bags in the living room. But no, it just, to me, it's that kind of thing. Like, it just speaks to me more. But what you said about watching your wife watch it, there are so many women I've spoken to, both inside the nerd world and outside the nerd world, who are so incredibly moved by this movie as women, seeing something finally represent them that has the strength and nobility and grace and power and superhero aspect to it as well. It's just what she represented, and that it was done in a good movie as well. It just was the cherry on top of the cake.
Right. But how you connected more to Logan, that doesn't diminish your enjoyment of Wonder Woman.
Absolutely not.
I liked Wonder Woman more than Logan. Like, I've never been a big, some of your listeners might hate me. I've never been a big Wolverine guy. Like, I like him in the group. I like him in the X-Men movies. When it's him by himself, I'm kind of like, it's fine. And again, I enjoyed Logan. I didn't need to see Logan again and again, though.
It's because you don't have rage, man.
We just talked about my universal rage.
But only if someone trips your friend.
I'm generally a happy person.
Yeah, I get rage if I'm waiting too long in a line. Like, it's not,
I've seen it.
Yeah. Yes, you have. That's when the comments start happening. The comments under my breath.
There was I can't remember what year coming out of Hall H it was. It was one of our big Hall H days a couple of years ago. But for those of you that have not been to Comic-Con, at the end of Hall H or at the end of Saturday, coming out of Hall H, it's a very large hall, seats about 6,000, 7,000 people. Everyone is exiting at the same time, and everyone's happy, but you're in a space that is not designed for that many people. So it can have a very sort of sheep-like feel, and people can get a little impatient because they want to get to where they're going next, and so it just felt like all these bodies started to close in on me and John, and I could feel the tension radiating off of John, and somebody bumped into him, and obviously it wasn't on purpose, but then John yelled out, "Better stop pushing!"
Yeah, I just had my breaking point. I'd been in that hall all day. I've been holding my poop for 12 hours. Because you don't want to crap in a place like that. That's not the best place you want to crap. So many people going through 7,000 people in that auditorium using 4 bathrooms or 5 stalls, whatever it is. It's just madness. So yeah, there was a moment where they were just. I'm not a big fan of being crowded. It's a real big thing for me because I already feel self-conscious because I feel like I look like John Goodman the majority of the time of my life. You know, I feel like I'm like this massive guy. So even on airplanes, I try to do the aisle seat all the time because when I'm in the middle, I feel like I have to like fold my body into a suitcase in order to fit in the middle because I just have these big legs and big shoulders, and so it's uncomfortable sometimes. So like when I start to get crowded into a box, in essence, I really start to like rebel inside, like you know. And so yeah, so that's what I had to let that. It's like letting the tea kettle out. I had to just say that shit so I could calm down afterwards, but I had to let it out. And I remember that. I remember distinctly. It's just better stop pushing. This is the last time. Yeah. So the other, I know you wanted to come on also because you know we don't talk about video games on the show. Yes. So let's get into this. You're a massive fan of Injustice. Is that what it's called? DC Injustice?
Yes. Well, now it's Injustice 2.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I apologize. Injustice 2.
It is actually on my television screen right now. We're looking at it. John, as we were getting prepared, John had to go use the facilities, so I had a few minutes to bang out a few rounds of Aquaman, taking some people to school. and. But, well, the thing that's, for those people that do play Injustice 2, like, this is the largest roster of characters, as far as I know, that has been released for a fighting game. And I enjoyed it so much, and then they start to release these separate characters.
The DLC?
The downloadable. Is it downloadable content? Is that the acronym?
Yeah, that's DLC.
Okay. we had a discussion earlier, the difference between an acronym and an anagram.
Stop telling our secrets, man.
But one of the characters they released was Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat. Now, NetherRealm is the studio that I guess produces both titles, and I had such a huge issue with that because I'm like, I don't want Sub-Zero to be one of the DLC. And when they sort of, again, release the roster of characters, you can see on the sides here the silhouettes of characters that are coming. Now, you can see one of them is Black Manta, which is awesome. And then there's one that is probably the Atom. Then there's one that looks like Raiden.
Raiden, that is Raiden.
Yeah, I don't want Raiden. What? I would rather have, like, let's deep dive into the DC catalog. Let's get the Spectre.
Spectre would be great.
Let's get Plastic Man.
What about Deadman? Is that DC?
Deadman is DC. There are so many characters that they could use, and again, maybe I'm in the minority, but I would prefer the DC fighting game to just be DC characters.
Yeah, especially with Justice League Dark coming out and Justice League Action, there's a lot of other characters to choose from. Etrigan would be fantastic.
Yeah, John Constantine.
The Hellblazer would be great.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of have their magical character already with Dr. Fate, but I mean, they're different. I mean, it's a different character.
Is Zatanna in there? Is that a choice?
She was in the first one. Okay. She was a DLC character for the first Injustice. I'm assuming they are not bringing her back. Like they brought back Black Adam, but they did not bring back Shazam as of yet. Like one of these guys could be Shazam. I doubt it.
What?
Yeah, Shazam. They didn't bring him back.
Why do they keep fucking with Shazam? Shazam, you know, man, I get so mad at people fucking with Shazam. Shazam, like you have Aquaman, I have Shazam. Like, I love Captain Marvel to pieces. I love Shazam to pieces. It drives me nuts that he is not as popular as Superman. He is Earth's mightiest mortal. He can go toe-to-toe with that Kryptonian Blue Boy Scout. He can go toe-to-toe with him, as we saw in Kingdom Come, one of the greatest graphic novels ever written. and to see that he still can't. Like, I hope the movie changes that, because it's frustrating how much he gets pushed to the side. It's just super, super frustrating.
Yeah, I forget what the Justice League animated series where he gets introduced, and they're calling him Captain Marvel. They're not calling him Shazam. Where he gets introduced and he and Superman go toe to toe in like the Lex Luthor sponsored like little town that he made for orphans or whatever. Watching those two go at it was fantastic, and sort of the bright-eyed optimism that Billy Batson brings to things. It's very refreshing.
Yeah. Do you think if they ever do they do Bizarro? Do they have Bizarro in here?
No.
I think it was in the first one.
I don't think he was. I feel like he might be a skin. Like
Okay.
a downloadable skin. So you're playing with Superman's powers, but it looks like him.
Do you think if they ever did a Bizarro with Henry Cavill would play Bizarro?
I think that would be a really cool idea, but I also wonder if they would pass up the chance to stunt cast that, like bring another big name in.
Yeah, that's true. They'd have to, I guess. It would be fun to see Henry Cavill fighting himself. That would be so interesting.
But I don't know. Bizarro would be tough to do cinematically. But again, 10 years ago, we never would have thought we were getting a Green Lantern movie.
Or Guardians.
Yeah. Oh, especially Guardians. Again, that's a deep dive.
Yeah.
Or it was a deep dive.
Yeah, it was. What? So it just frustrates you. Do you think you'll get more DC than Mortal Kombat at this point?
Yeah. I mean, there are still. Because Starfire is supposed to come out soon. That's the one just to the right of Poison Ivy. Like, she's a little more highlighted. So we still are going to get 6. And you can tell one is the Atom, one is Black Manta. There's a female character. People are speculating that might be Mira. But I guess the last Mortal Kombat game they did, it's the same format. It's the same sort of reveal format with the DLC. Like, they highlighted a character that was a classic Mortal Kombat character, and then an alien chest burster popped out of his, burst from his chest, and it ended up you were playing the alien. So my hope is that Raiden is actually Plastic Man. Like, Plastic Man is kind of, squiggled up into the shape of Raiden. That's my hope.
Has Elongated Man ever made it onto one of these?
No, people... No, but neither is Plastic Man. But I think of the two, they're going to go with Plastic Man.
Yeah, of course, he's the most notable one.
Yeah. But Elongated Man is going to be on season 4 of Flash.
Right. I did read that.
They just cast the kid. Yeah. And it's interesting because he's obviously handsome. It's a CW, but he does have like this slightly pointy nose and slightly pointed chin that Ralph Dibny has in the comics.
Remember, what was the one with the wife, the woman died and they was murdered and they had to find, what was that novel?
I don't remember the name of it, but it's Ralph Dibny's wife gets killed. Yeah. I remember the culprit. I mean, I won't spoil it in case your readers want to go, or your listeners want to go and search for it, but it's a really good miniseries. It's one I come back to like every couple of years, and it's just read it. It's so good. It's so good. Like Injustice, the first few issues of Injustice were fantastic. That first run of Injustice was great. I think it kind of got dissipated a little bit as it went on, but the first run of Injustice was really, really great. Yeah. All right, one last thing I want to talk to you about. Oh no, well, two more things, but we got to make them quick. The Disney streaming channel. What are your thoughts on that? Like, do you think this is going to be all Marvel and DC? And do you think this is a good idea to move this stuff off Netflix? Like, don't we have the Disney Channel already? Don't we have on demand already? What's the difference? Well, the way that the landscape of television is changing, like people keep talking about how the network system is sort of an antiquated system, and that at some point it's going to go all streaming. Like Warner Brothers or DC is going to do their streaming service. If it's Disney, I mean, that's a big swath. I mean, that's Pixar, that's Marvel, that's Star Wars. That's along with Disney, not just their films, but also that massive catalog of TV. Think of all the Marvel, all of the Oh God, will they take the Netflix shows off, like Daredevil and all that? Would they put that onto the Disney streaming? Oh, like Wow, I just thought of that. But those are Netflix produced, aren't they? Or they just put them on Netflix? I don't know if Netflix produces them. I think Marvel produces them, and Netflix is just the channel that they're basically on. Holy shit! I already pay $8 for Netflix, $9 for Netflix. I know, it's breaking the bank. The $8 a month. But, by the time that Disney releases their streaming service, I don't know, because Netflix prices are going up. I mean, they're not going up astronomically. But by the time that Disney releases that, I don't know, Netflix might have to try to be a little more competitive financially because they're not carrying as many movies as they used to because they're focusing so much on the television that they're getting and also the original programming that they have. So maybe if Disney takes all of their stuff, Netflix has to start investing in more movies again.
Oh God! Oh my God! We'll see what happens. All right. So the last thing I want to ask you about is Game of Thrones. What did you think about this past week episode? What do you think about the season overall? How it's going? Shannon is a massive Game of Thrones fan, so we talk about it with Michael, with Vogel all the time. So tell me, what do you feel about how the season's going? Like the pace of the season, the stuff that was revealed, the dragon stuff, Drogon last episode. Like, where do you think this is going with Jon and Dany? Do you think they're gonna fucking make out? Their aunt and nephew? Do you think they're gonna make out? Like, I don't know. There was some heat in that cave. So you tell me, like, what do you think about how it's been going this season?
This season has been fantastic because it's going to be 7 episodes this season and then 6 episodes, or 6 episodes for the last season. We're getting to see the payoff of seasons worth of setup, which is awesome. Again, my wife is not a Game of Thrones watcher, and we hung out on Sunday, and I normally try to watch it after she goes to bed, or I'll watch it the next day, but I started to see like the social media on my phone start to light up, and I told him, like, honey, I have to watch Game of Thrones tonight. And geeks tend to be can be a somewhat emotional people, and watching Arya go back to Winterfell, I mean, I got very quiet. My wife was just like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, are you crying? I'm like, maybe a little bit. I'm like, you don't understand. Like, she hasn't been there in years. She hasn't seen her sister, her family in years.
That was a great moment when she looked around all of Winterfell and was like taking it all in, sitting on that slab as she was waiting for the idiot guards to go and tell Sansa about her.
Yeah, and just I don't know if I would call it tension, but you could tell in the first season, like, she and Sansa and Arya weren't close. Like, Arya is much closer to her brothers. Like, she's a tomboy. When Sansa goes to her in the crypt and she says, do I have to call you Lady Stark? And she says, yes. There was a moment of like, are you being serious? And then they kind of smile, but I don't know. You could tell even Sansa knows it. And she's like, Jon was happy to see me. He's going to flip out when he sees you. Everything that has happened this season, I've been a big fan of. I've enjoyed watching it tremendously, and I don't own a ton of television series like the entire season. Game of Thrones will be one of those that I buy, that I will have all. Will it be 7 seasons?
8.
8 seasons. I will have all the seasons in the big, glossy box set that they release.
All the seasons, all the dragons. Yeah, listen, I've enjoyed the season as well. It's been fun being on Thrones Talk, on Collider, and talking about it with Ken and Rachel and Dennis. What's so interesting about the show now is it's not beholden by the books, so it's going to barrel to whatever it's going to barrel to. And so what I loved is the twist that you thought at the beginning of the season, oh man, Cersei's just going to get mowed down, and we're going to get this like slow, enjoyable destruction of Cersei's kingdom. And what we've gotten is complete opposite, which is right in the tradition of George R.R. Martin of like, you think it's going to go, you just fool yourself into thinking there's happy endings here, and then all this other shit's going on. And Dany with the bend the knee, like, she will not let that go. Mm-hmm. So this could lead to an interesting situation between them as it goes forward, because they're not going to bend the knee to her. They're not. All the shit that's happened from the southern rulers in the northern kingdoms, like, they're not going to do that. Yeah. So what does that mean? And once Jon finds out he's a Targaryen, does that change his claim to the throne? Does he want to be king? Like, there's so much to play around with. And in my mind, is Tyrion going to... I just have this feeling that they're setting up Tyrion to make this decision to choose his family over Dany in some critical moment. He was already like under his breath screaming at his brother to not try to attack Dany because he knew it meant certain death. Right. And so he still cares about some elements of his family. And you could tell he was hurt watching his soldiers he had once commanded at Blackwater possibly die right in front of him at the hands so ruthlessly of a dragon.
Yeah. The way that the Dothraki says to him, your people don't know how to fight. Peter Dinklage is just doing such a great job on that show. That whole battle was just amazing to watch. But that idea that you have that he could possibly betray Dany, and like, that falls right in line with what the show is. And to watch how Cersei has outmaneuvered him for the entire season. I mean, for 4 episodes at least. It's a really exciting thing to watch. I mean, everything and I don't know when the next season will come out. I don't know if it'll be this summer again.
The rumors are 2019. Those bastards.
Oh my gosh, that's so far.
Right.
But I've been watching every episode twice. I watch it on the Sunday or Monday, and then before the next episode, I watch it again.
Yeah, why not? I mean, I watched this one 3 times, which I've never, ever done with any other episode. Not even Battle of the Bastards, which is almost my favorite episode. Yeah. I watched it early, the East Coast stream. Then I watched it on HBO Go, the West Coast stream. And then the next morning, I woke up and watched it before I went into the Thrones talk because I just wanted to savor it. Because I flipped out the first time I saw it. Like I've said this on the show. I said this on the show. I hid behind a wall in my apartment. Like I was like in my house, in my place. I was just like, oh my god, ah! And then when homie pulled out the scorpion, I was like, oh no! And then when the arrow hit, and I was like, oh shit, he's gonna die. This is insane. What's gonna happen to Dany if she falls off the dragon? There was all kinds of things that were happening. So what I loved about the battle is that you couldn't feel comfortable that one side was completely going to win at any time until finally the end. And now we don't know what's going to happen, obviously, because he's sinking into the bottom of the water. And someone pointed out really funny that the horses are standing in 2 feet of water just fine, and Bran knocks him off, and he falls like 20 feet down all the way to the back. So I said to them, you've never been in an ocean bank, have you? Where you just stepped out, all of a sudden you're like all the way over your head in the ocean.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. I wish you hadn't brought that up.
I'm just saying it. Yeah, I know. I was like, well, that makes sense. Shit. So it'll be fun to see what they do next episode and how they keep progressing. Because this is smart. You gotta, in order for Dany to win, you've got to make Cersei formidable. And making her a weak, lame duck queen would not have worked dramatically for the season. So I think this is brilliant. And the way she's torturing Ilaria down there with her daughter and all that, like it's just classic Cersei. And as much as you may hate her as a person, she's a fantastic dramatic character to watch and enjoy and savor. And the way she turned the tables on Mark Gatiss as the guy from the Iron Bank, like where he was like, well, he was all cocky and had the advantage over her last episode, and then in this episode he's like, well, we can fund you if you need to do this or that. It's just like, you see, that's what happens when you walk into a bank with credit. All of a sudden they're like, we'll give you anything you want. Please just invest with us. Borrow money from us.
What do you say? You have the support of the Iron Bank. And how fun is he on the show?
Oh, I love him on the show.
Yeah. It's Mycroft coming to Westeros.
Yeah, so much so. Well, there's they mentioned the Golden Company, which is a team of assassins from back in the old days, of their attempts to overthrow the ruler of the Seven Kingdoms. So the Golden Company is like this team of assassins that was loyal to a particular what they call, I think it was called the Usurper or the Rebellion or the Rebel, something like that. And they're mercenaries, and they never turn on you. They don't take, if you offer them more money, they don't take it. Their goal is they have to kill their target, or whatever you apply them for. The fact that she just casually dropped that is like, oh man, what does that mean? Is that going to show up? Is she going to get? And I was reading some review, I think it was in Ringer, where they said that's the perfect Cersei Lannister short game, long-term headache. Right, like she did with the Sparrow, short-term gain, long-term headache. And this is how she rules, and she always seems to find her way out of not paying the consequences fully. Although walking naked, shame stuff is paying the consequences for the Sparrow, pretty much. Yeah. But like she almost never pays the consequences for her actions. So we'll see what happens as the next few episodes, 3-4 episodes progress.
There are three left.
Oh my God, stop it!
But without that walk, does she blow up the Sept?
No.
Yeah, she wouldn't have done that. It was the checkmate move. Like, I'm going to one-up you.
Yeah.
How far do you want to take this?
And she goes for broke.
Yeah.
She goes nuclear.
Yeah, the jugular.
Yeah. Oh, the old Rocha. I used to go for the jugular back in the old days. I miss those days sometimes. Anyway, I think we've covered a bunch of topics, Shannon. I think we should wrap it up here. And I've got to get to bed, for God's sakes. thanks so much for taking the time to come on the Outlaw Nation, brother. You know, I always love talking to you, but this is even more fun to be, because we hardly get the time to really talk about all this geek stuff, because we're working on all these other things that we're doing, and we're like telling each other about what's going on in our lives. So this is fun to sit down with you and talk about this stuff. Yeah.
I agree, and thank you very much.
You're so sweet. Will you tell people where they can follow you on Twitter? And you don't have Instagram, but where they can follow you on Twitter. And do you have a website, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, you can follow me at Shannon_McClung. And yeah, I have a Facebook fan page that I think it's a Shannon McClung fan page, I think. My representation would be thrilled if you would go and like it.
Yeah, and I give my personal push for all of you to go and follow him on Twitter. Shannon is a very funny guy, and follow him on like his page on Facebook, because he's a working actor. He's consistently booking things. He's a joy to watch on screen. If you ever get a chance to watch his stuff on screen, and we've acted together in an episode on Hollywood Heights, not with each other, but we were acting in the episode at different times. So we have that to our credibility, or whatever adds to our connection. So there you go. All right, everybody, thanks so much for listening to Outlaw Nation this week. I really appreciate it. Like I said, keep those messages coming. Keep those emails and Facebook chats coming. Like, I really appreciate reading all your stuff. Listen, it's not easy out there. I get it. It's a struggle. It's a fight. And you guys know I've been with you. I've been talking to you guys every week, telling you, like, I understand. I've been in the darkest places that there are. I almost took my life last year. Like, I'm out of it. I climbed out of it. It took everything I could to climb out of it. All the friends that were there to walk me through it. All the hard work I had to do when no one's around at 3 a.m. and you're just alone with these thoughts. I know. I had someone who tweeted at me and Amy Awesome today to tell us about how close he had come to killing himself for the last few months. But our podcasts kept him afloat. Like, that's the thing. This is why I do the show, to connect with you guys and talk about stuff and do whatever, and like hear from you guys, and we will do a show further down the line where I read some of my favorite letters from you guys, or some messages from you guys, with your permission, obviously, and just talk about it. And so, if the show does nothing else, I want the show to inspire you to stay alive for another second, another minute, another hour, another day, another week, another month, another year, whatever it takes. There is a way out. If you make the decision to make the decision, I also respect that. I am never going to judge that. I've been there, and I will never judge anyone again for ever doing that. That is a personal decision. But if you want to live, if you want to fight, you want to stay with it, I'm in your corner. I support you 1,000%. If no one else is, if you're not hearing this from anyone else, play this to yourself over and over and over again, and know, I got you. I'm behind you. I support you. I want you to fight. All these stuff that has happened for me over the last few months, climbing out of the hell I was in and seeing how my life has turned around and all these great things are happening, are because I stuck around and fought. If I hadn't stuck around and fought, I wouldn't be writing for Tracking Board. I wouldn't be doing more stuff at Collider. Top 10 wouldn't have come back. The Outlaw Nation wouldn't have started. Like, there's so much. And Cinephiles, Steve and I wouldn't have done as many as we've done and have a successful Patreon. Like, there's all this stuff that's happened because I stuck around long enough, because I fought through the most terrible stuff that you can go through. And everyone's journeys are different. Everyone's perspective is different on what they're going through. I respect that. So whatever it is, meditate, chant, take a walk, read books, listen to music that makes you happy. Whatever brings you peace, find it and be selfish about it. Be selfish about it. It's not a crime to say, I don't want to talk to anybody today. I don't want to be around anyone today. I need an hour or two. I need to find my time for myself. It is invaluable, and you need to do it. So, all right, there you go. That's my message for you all this week. Thanks so much for listening. Once again, follow me at The Rocha Says, TheRochasys, on Twitter and on Instagram. The Cinephiles on iTunes, Stitcher, and YouTube. Go to the Patreon page we have for the Cinephiles. We drop an episode every Friday morning. You guys know that. And Top 10 every Tuesday morning on SK Plus Podcast channel. And you can follow my columns, read my columns on www.tracking-board.com, tracking-board.com, and you can see the stuff that I write there. So thanks everybody for supporting the show and for listening. And we will talk to you all next week. Keep going. Bye-bye.